Hey everyone, this is I Oisty T from Good Evening I Oisty and welcome to the Casual overview on Dancer. In this video, I'll be going over the opener, a few optimization points that even me, the most casual of casuals, is able to use, as well as my overall thoughts on Dancer as a job in Shadowbringers. To begin with, the opener I'm going to show you was derived by those brilliant people over at The Balance. They are the brains behind all of the openers and rotations we see in Final Fantasy XIV, and without a doubt, if these great people didn't do what they do, then we wouldn't have them, and we'd be lost. Well, I would be anyway. Also, I'm not a brilliant 95th percentile player in any job. I'm not going to be someone who challenges the hardest of hard content, but I am someone who enjoys playing certain jobs, and Dancer, along with Bard and Machinist, falls into that category. Just before we talk about the opener, I thought it would be best just to go over a couple of key points when it comes to the different types of abilities and weapon skills that are used during it. Weapon skills and abilities are split into two different types, global cooldowns and off-global cooldowns. These are also known as GCDs and OGCDs. A GCD starts the GCD timer. This is normally 2.5 seconds but can be lowered with high enough skill speed. As a ranged DPS, a Dancer doesn't want too much skill speed, and therefore our GCD will always be at or around 2.5 seconds. What this means is that you can use your weapon skills once every 2.5 seconds. There are some skills that can only be used on the global cooldown, but take longer than the 2.5 seconds to actually be usable again. For a Dancer, these are your two dancers, standard and technical step. An off-global cooldown is often weaved in between your GCDs, allowing for your damage to continue flowing while waiting for your GCD to run down. For a Dancer, the main examples of these are Flourish, along with all types of fan dance. Some off-global cooldowns are support-based and often support the party with a group buff. Dancer is unique in that it only has one OGCD that supports the party in the form of Devilment, and it only supports you and one other player. The Dancer's main support utility comes from the added effect of specific GCDs in the form of technical and standard step, but I'll talk about them later. So what is the Dancer's opener? Well, hopefully you have an understanding group who will give you around 1 minute's notice before pulling. This allows you to use standard step and apply the standard step buff with enough time remaining on it so it doesn't fall off before the pull. If this is the case, great. If not, don't worry and just follow the opener below, as at the very least they should give you a nice 15-second countdown. Well, hopefully. So let's assume the tank has given you a 15-second countdown. Straight after the 15 appears, start prepping standard step. So it's standard step, step 1 and step 2. Then as soon as the countdown hits 0 and you're in range, use standard step, technical step, your 1, 2, 3, 4 steps for technical step again, flourish, rising windmill, devilment, fan dance 3, and then you're into the most complex bit of Dancer, and even then it's not too complex. Just simply follow the following. Number 1, do I have more than 80 S for it? Yes, use Saber Dance. If not, go to 2. Is standard step off cooldown? Yes, use standard step. If not, go to number 3. Do I have more than 50 S for it and I'm under the effect of devilment? If so, use Saber Dance. Then it's a case of using Fountain Fall if you have a Fountain Fall proc, using Reverse Cascade if you have a Reverse Cascade proc, using Fountain if you have a Fountain proc, and if not, just use normal Cascade. They are the 7 steps in the Dancer priority system. Make sure that you use any 4-fold feathers in between your GCDs, along with any Fan Dance 3 procs you have. Okay, so maybe it's more complicated than I thought. How about we see it in action and I'll talk you through the opener that I performed in the video. So as you can see, I'm using a 15-second cooldown and then using standard step and my 2 steps, but I'm not using standard step straight away. Always make sure to have used closed position on your dance partner as well beforehand, and just make sure to get yourself into position during this period. As you can see, it's now counting down 4, 3, 2, make sure you're in position, 1, and immediately use standard step. You then use technical step, your normal 4 steps, and technical step again, then flourish, rise and windmill, devilment, fan dance 3, I've used blood shower, then fountain fall. As it is then off cooldown, I then used standard step again, followed by reverse cascade. Now, as you can see, I've then started the opener again using cascade and fountain. The opener is likely to replay as well as we go through. In this opener, you can see I did not get any 4-fold feathers, and I also did not have enough esprit gauge to use saber dance. The main complexity with Dancer comes from a preparation and implementation of its burst phase. Now, like most jobs, a dancer's burst phase comes about after a certain amount of time, and in the case of Dancer, it's every 2 minutes, which happens to align with technical step. Now, you might be saying, oh great, technical step will be off cooldown, as will standard step and devilment and flourish. Great, just means I perform the opener. Well, not quite. As a dancer, you are aiming to have 4 4-fold feathers, along with at least 80 esprits stored and ready for your burst phase. This gives you a lot more room for additional damage than you have in your opener, as you won't have those feathers and esprit all the time. Therefore, the burst phase is a little different. A dancer's burst phase is technical step, flourish, rise and windmill, devilment, fan dance 3, and then the priority system. Now, you might be asking why use technical step before everything else, and it's quite simple. The 5% buff you get from technical step is more beneficial being used on all of your other damage skills, as opposed to waiting and trying to get some extra damage from a devilment enhanced technical step, because it's not always guaranteed. Assuming you are following the priority system, then there isn't too much optimization to do in relation to single target rotations. The only thing that you can do to properly maximize it is in relation to the 4-fold feathers. There are lots of different ways to optimize improvisation, and far too many for me to go through, but all I will say is that if there is significant downtime in a fight, like 15 seconds or more, then if you can get everyone clumped and use it to build as much esprit as possible. Anyway, in order to have the best burst phase possible, you are always looking to have 4 4-fold feathers, but you never want to overcap them. Now, there are 2 options when it comes to making sure you don't overcap. Option number 1 is simply to spend one of the feathers as soon as you get 4. Option number 2 is slightly more convoluted, however it is really the min-max way of doing it. Once you get 4 feathers, simply continue with your rotation as normal, only spending your 4th feather if you get any flourish pox. This is simply because the only way to replace the feather is by using one of those skills, so wait until you have the chance to get the feather back is optimally better than using it without the chance. Like I say, that is the fully optimized way of doing it, and it isn't really needed. It is the way I use it, to be honest, and that's only because I have gotten myself used to that. So if you want to try it and get yourself used to it, great. For AoE situations, due to the damage potencies on a dancer's AoE abilities, it is actually better to use these as long as there's more than one enemy. As always, there's a little priority system for AoE. It's Saber Dance if your esprit is above 80, Standard Step, Blood Shower, Rising Windmill, Blade Shower, Windmill. Now, in these AoE situations, I always look at using Technical Step and Devilment unless I know I'll be at a boss in a dungeon or the ad phase in a raid will be over before they are back off cooldown. If this is the case, I will hold both technical step and development. Now, like I say in my other videos and also earlier in this one, those great people over at The Balance have a lot more information, and if you really do want to go into the nitty gritty of the job, I always suggest you head over there. So that's the opener, the rotation, a little bit of optimization as well as the AoE rotation, but what do I think about Dancer? After main and red mage through the 4.0 portion of Stormblood and now main and dancer through the 5.0 portion of Shadowbringers, I feel like I'm drawn to those jobs that seem to have a low skill floor. By the way, please do not take this as me saying the jobs are easy. I just think they are probably easier to play than other jobs at the lowest point. However, that's not to say the jobs are bad. I really enjoyed Red Mage and Stormblood, and after spending time with Dancer both in the MSQ portion of Shadowbringers, but also in Extreme Trials and Eden Normal, I have to say that in my honest opinion, Dancer is the best designed expansion job in Final Fantasy XIV. That's not to say the other jobs aren't better designed now. What I mean to say is that when they were first launched, Dancer I feel is hands down better than Machinist, Dark Knight, Astrologian, Samurai, Red Mage, as well as Gunbreaker. I know a lot of people point out that there are things that would improve Dancer, and there's lots of things being said online about all range DPS, but I think the design team have done a brilliant job with Dancer. It is very fun to play at lower levels with enemies pretty much melting in early dungeons due to standard step, while at higher levels it brings a lot of easy playability due to having very specific single and multi-target rotations. If you have seen any of my other range DPS videos, I said that each range DPS should fit into a specific niche, so to speak. High damage, minimal utility, mid damage, some utility, low damage, high utility. For me, Dancer fits into the bottom option. It currently has the lowest personal DPS in the game based over at FF logs. Now, this wouldn't be a bad thing if its raid DPS was quite high, however this is not the case, and even the utility it does bring doesn't make up for its lackluster DPS. The simplest fix would be to revert the potencies of the main weapon skills along with the flourished versions of these back to their pre-Media 2 values, as they did all get a 50-point nerf, I believe. This, along with changing Devilment back to 30% crit and direct hit chance, is likely to be enough of an increase to improve these figures, and while I am also for being the lowest personal DPS, I feel that being higher in raid DPS would better suit the job's identity. Overall, Dancer is a great and fun job to play, and like I say, in my opinion, it is the best expansion job released in Final Fantasy XIV. Yes, it does have damage number issues, and the community seem to have jumped on this as a reason for Dancer not to be included, but for me, Dancer is definitely more cha-cha-cha than Gangnam Style. Thank you for watching this video. I've been Oisty T from Good Evening, I Oisty. Please like, comment and subscribe below, and until next time, goodbye.